43-20. Colorado falls to 0-5, and there are some glimmers of hope offensively for this football program, but defensively, I mean, I don't even know if I have words, Brian. I mean, I remember being back here in 2012 when Kadeem Carey broke the Pac-12 single-game rushing record, and I really thought at that point there's no way possible that I could cover a defense that's that bad, and yet it's deja vu all over again. That 2012 defense gave up an average of 7.11 yards per play. CU's defense going into today was giving up 7.11 yards per play, and then it got even worse today with Arizona running all over the field and passing all over the field against them.
Yeah, Jaden DeLora, 484 yards passing, which matches the most ever by a CU opponent. Joe Gans in Nebraska did that in 2007. The 673 yards, the fourth most ever allowed by a CU defense. I mean, the numbers are staggering when you look at it. And think about all the. You mentioned Kadeem Carey, but think about all the Arizona guys that have had monster days against the Buffs over the years. With Khalil Tate and guys like that. And Carl Durrell said, "Hey, that's a tough offense." Yeah, they are, but I mean,
it's a 3-2 football team.
It's a 3-2 football team, and I'm sorry that the kid had. He's a good quarterback. I understand that, but. He had 11 touchdowns, 6 picks coming into this game. He has 6 touchdowns and no picks tonight, and just shredded the defense. I mean, CU can't stop anybody, and it's headline news when they force a punt, or get a 4th down stop, because I mean that defense is just atrocious right now, and they're getting shredded by everybody.
I was joking with you. The only thing that's stopping Arizona tonight is the end zone, because they can't keep running. I mean, that's how bad it's gotten for this group. And yes, they're young in the secondary, but they should have fixed some of those depth issues at safety before the season. And I understand there's restrictions with the transfer portal, but that was a glaring issue for this team all offseason. There had to be some way to address that, because you were selling playing time at that point, this past offseason. The front seven, we've gone over this before, but as experienced as that group is, there just really is no excuse for how bad this defense is playing, and it comes on Chris Wilson and the coaches on that side of the ball, because this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and credit to Carl Durrell. He said, "I'm not going to blame the players. This is on coaching," and I agree with them. We said, I think it was after the last game. I said, "Hey, this is on coaching at this point," and especially with defense, it definitely is. I mean, it has to fall on Chris Wilson. That's his defense, and they're just getting shredded. And like you said, there's no excuse for it up front. When you've got guys that. I know they're not like all conference, all world players, but Jalen Sami, Terrence Lang, Naeem Rodman have all played better football than we've seen them play right now. You've got senior linebackers that have all played better football than we're seeing them play right now, and they just can't stop anybody. There's no answers, and Arizona's a nice team, but they shouldn't be racking up nearly 700 yards of offense.
Offensively, there's a lot of true freshmen out there making plays. Obviously, Owen McCown has looked pretty good when you grade it on a curve, right? That this was his second start, his first start on the road. He's still going to make mistakes, but generally that's what you're going to get when you start a true freshman at quarterback. And Anthony Hankerson, we talked about this and wrote about it, that he wasn't cleared until 2 weeks ago. And so the fact that he comes out there and looks as good as he did, that's a positive sign for the future. Jordan Tyson, you got to be excited about that. So there's Van Wells starts at center tonight. Not trying to pick on him, but it's pretty rare that you see a false start on a center, but there's a lot of young guys on that side of the ball. They are getting better there. Still probably not playing well enough for this to be a winning football team, but at least you have some bright spots to point to on that side of the ball.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned Eric Olson or not, but that's another one. I mean, at tight end, Brady Russell was not here. Caleb Fourier was a game-time decision, couldn't go, so Eric Olson gets to start. They're young at tight end as well. There's a lot of freshmen. Hankerson, Darian Hagan compared him to Eric Bieniemy in fall camp, and you kind of look at that, and he's got a long way to go for that, but you watch him run sometimes, you're like, he's pretty good, I think there's pretty good potential there. So I like what some of these offensive guys could be next year and the year after that. And I guess if you're a CU fan, hang your hope on that and watch some of these young guys develop the rest of this season, because at least offensively there's some of those pieces you can look at and say, all right, there's something going on there. Defensively, we've talked about it before. I mean, most of these guys, or a lot of these guys that are playing, these key guys, they're gone next year, and so you've got holes to fill even more. So how does this defense get any better anytime soon? I don't know. Change coaches. I don't know what it takes, but as it stands right now, it's really hard to see them stopping anybody.
And after the game, I asked Carl Durrell if this has been tough on him personally. The last 5 weeks, they feel like practices are going great and it just doesn't translate over. And he gave a really short answer, said that it's been difficult on him personally, but didn't really go into detail. You asked him if he thinks this might have been his last game coaching here at Colorado. I mean, he said no, but that's what you'd expect him to say. You have to ask the question. He has to answer it that way. We'll see. This could be an interesting week coming up. If the reason that Colorado can't fire Carl Durrell is because of the money owed, then that's on Rick George, because he agreed to the terms of that contract, which was one of the worst contracts I've ever seen, just given that Carl Durrell was not a sought-after coach. He was doing really well as an assistant coach for the Miami Dolphins, but they didn't need to pay him all that much money. So the fact that they're on the hook for as much money as they are with him is on Rick George. So if I'm him, I'm making a decision tomorrow. I'm making a coaching change, because otherwise all the heat's going to come on me if I'm the athletic director.
Yeah, no question. And, it was not a great contract, and, overpaid for Carl Durrell, and it hasn't worked out. And so that's going to come back and bite CU at some point, because they're either going to hang on to Carl Durrell and keep this up. I'm not saying Carl can't fix it, but the way it's going, it doesn't look like they're going to, right? So he's either going to hang on to Carl Durrell and deal with this rest of the season, or you got to fire him and come up with about $8.7 million at some point. Now, that'll be mitigated, I get that, but that's what the number is to start out. And so it's a tough spot. And yes, I knew when I asked Carl Durrell that question, I know what his answer is going to be, but we still have to ask it. We always get criticized for not asking the hard questions. Hopefully that was a hard question for all you fans that criticize us, but I know his answer. He's not going to say, "Yep, this is probably it," but honestly, it should be. This should be the end for Carl Durrell.
Yeah, and I mean, I talked about how bad their defense has been. You've still got Oregon and USC and Utah on your schedule. So
and Washington.
And Cal's a decent football team. So I don't know what firing Carl Durrell with the bye week coming up would do to fix things within this program. Yeah. But at the very least, it would give this locker room a different voice. And on some level, don't you think it would take a little pressure off of those guys?
Yeah, I do, and I agree with you. I don't think it does anything to fix this season. I don't think you fire Carl Durrell and all of a sudden you win 6 of your next 7, go to a bowl game. And, you probably don't win 2-3 games this season, but I think that this program needs a different voice at this point. I think you need a different message. You need some different leadership, and who knows, maybe Phil McGagan, Mike Sanford, whoever that takes over interim does things differently, and it sparks the team in a different way. Maybe a different voice helps this team. Maybe it puts the players on notice that, holy crap, we just lost another coach, and who knows what it does. And as big as anything, and this is not in the locker room, I get it's all about the players a lot of times, but for your fan base, you've got to do it, because this fan base is turning on you big time. And I know it's almost a sellout for the next home game because it's a family weekend, but still, the stands are going to be empty, and these players don't deserve that. And at least if you fire the coach and move on, you tell your fans, we're trying, we're going to change things, so at least come support our players, and fans can get behind that. But it doesn't fix this season, but I think it has to happen at this point.
And Carl Durrell's taken a lot of flack for his in-game demeanor, and I get that. You'd like to see a little bit more fire out of your head coach. I would say professionally, from our standpoint, he's handled the media pretty well, especially this year. I thought he's improved in that area. So it's never anything personal against the guy. But since that 4-0 start, which you could argue how much of that is residual effect and it being a really strange season. I mean, they're 4-15 since then. And things are not – they're clearly continuing to trend in a negative direction, aside from a few glimmers of hope offensively. I cannot think of one argument in which Carl Durrell should be coaching this football team on October 15th.
Yeah, I agree. I can't think of one argument why you should be coaching this team on October 3rd. And again, it's nothing personal, but sometimes it's just obvious, and it's a results-oriented business, and the bottom line is his results are terrible at this point. And this program's gotten worse. You're 4-2 in a pandemic year. You're 4-8 last year, and you're sitting at 0-5. You're looking at 0-12 at the way this team's playing. So I don't know how you continue with Karl Dorrell as your head coach.
All right, it could be an interesting week coming up. We don't know as we record this. Hoops Media Day is coming up, so it might be kind of a crazy busy week for us.
Yes, it might be, and Hoops Media Day might be a nice diversion for us.
Absolutely. All right, signing off from Tucson, Colorado, falls to 0-5.